Okay, let's pick up with Gita Dhyana. The English translation, it's in there if we want to refer to a link or tablet. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us, O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd, Lord Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. Milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. So we'll pick up Holy Gita. Of course, it's Bhagavad Gita. Swami Chinmayananda's translation and commentary is called The Holy Gita. In English, spelled G-E-E-T-A. Just there's so many different transliteration approaches. And we've covered, I'll just read for context, and then we'll come to these last two shlokas of this chapter. And here he translates this this chapter as ending action in knowledge. Ending action in knowledge. So the beauty of what's offered to us is that since the direct route actually to the self is complete and absolute silence, and since we're not schooled in this, and since the mind and the senses have developed their own ways, really it was a pill that was given to us in unimaginable time. Since we're not able to come directly into that silence, then the teaching exists in order to share with us how to do so, right? To extol it, the self, capital S self, to extol it and to point to it and then to guide the way. We get so many different translations or approaches or commentaries, but all are, we call it triangulation in one way, so that we can, if the point that we're wanting to get to is here, if we keep going at it here, but we keep running into the same barrier, then it might take forever. So we come at it multiple different ways, and in the same way when we're dealing with this, we've actually been drawing on 3 translations of the Gita, 3 translations and commentaries. They're all disciples of Swami Shivananda, and 4 because Swami Shivananda is as well. And then we could pick up any of the translations and commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita. Once it resonates, then there will be an understanding of these different ways of pointing to. Swami Chinmayananda is very much the jnani. He's very austere, direct, and he tends to really parse the words and go into these deep intellectual discourses on the teachings. So I'll take a little bit of his commentary. Okay, so here's recap. We pick up here. Certainly there is no purifier in this world. Certainly there is no purifier in this world like knowledge. He who is himself perfected in yoga finds it in the self in time. In oneself, but when we say in oneself, we tend to feel like the self that I'm living with all the time, but it's deeper than that. It's in the self that is living with this little self all the time. We have to live with ourselves. The one we're living with is imaginary. It's made up. It's the character. It's the stuff we do. It's the things that we think. It's the things that we feel. It's very limited. We live with it, but the I living with it is the free I. And so we're being pointed back to the free I, to find the free I, and to find the wisdom which flows freely from the free I, which is the I living with the imaginary little I. So all these experiences and the arisings about the experiences and the judgments about the experiences, you did this to me and how could you have done this? And these are all thoughts which we're having to live with. They're all feelings which we're having to live with, right? But they're not the I, they're not the self. The self is living with them. It's not recognizing necessarily that this can all be changed, that this environment can be changed. In a way, very simply, but of course, having said that, it's not so easy, but it can be done, and we're in the process of doing so. So the wisdom is in the I, in the self, in the capital S self, not the little s self. That little s self that's talking all the time and telling you how great it is, and how all these other bozos don't know. Whatever it is, that little I, no wisdom there. It operates on borrowed light, and its life is completely imaginary. But the real I, the real self, is the font of wisdom, and it's putting up with this stuff. So he who is himself perfected in yoga finds it in the self in time, finds the knowledge. The knowledge. It's not a knowledge that has to be found in the world, right? It's not that kind of knowledge. That's what we're accustomed to in knowledge. I learn it, I memorize it, I study it. It's not that knowledge. It's the knowledge that's being veiled, which is in the I, in the self itself. Be still and know that I am God. It's in God, but that God is not a part. That God and I are one. 39, the man who is woman, the person who is full of faith, who is devoted to it, capital I. So having found about it, which is the I, which is also God, having found about it and having developed real abiding faith, unshakable faith, which will come. I mean, spirit is unaffected by anything happening here. So if you keep on it and you break this identification with the body and all of these habits and patterns, then what's left is the I. What's left is God. And so Peace Pilgram has this beautiful quote about faith. She says, faith is a knowing. It's not a thinking, it's a knowing. That which cannot be known through the senses. So faith is actually, real faith, unshakable faith, is a knowing. So when you know yourself to be spirit and you know that these thoughts aren't you, and if you have faith in it, why is that important? If you know, then of course you're going to have faith. Not necessarily. You see, knowing is a conscious mind activity in a way. Knowledge exists within inside. The totality of knowledge, the great knowledge exists within the I. But the vehicle of coming to know it, this is a very mysterious journey, you know. It's a journeyless journey. You're not actually going someplace. You're unveiling something that you didn't imagine to be there. And so in this process, and it would be fine if you said, I don't know, teach me, then that would be easy. But you see, we have this loud voice saying, I know. Oh, no, I know. About everything. And so even when we find ourselves with one who knows, then we'll ask some questions, but then the things that we are sure that we know never come. So, but there will be a time if you keep on this. This beautiful quote from Jesus. He says, "Seek and ye shall find. Yes. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Ask and it shall be revealed to you." So this is the way it works. The issue is when we're caught up in this little I saying, I know. Yeah. Then we don't ask. And if we ask, we only ask to prove, I know. Look at me, I know so much. I am the center of the universe and everyone is revering me. Oh my God, this life is amazing. Until we find it empty.
Exactly.
Oh
my gosh.
Oh my dear Lord.
Yes.
So, and then there's this discernment finally where we can catch it. We continue on this. We break down these barriers, these veils, which are what we've been holding on to, and then we come to the point. We might say something like, oh my God, son of a gun, this is all God. And so that's a realization of in a way. But then the question is, do you live according to it? Are you firm in it? That's faith. Are you firm in it? Are you willing to accept all the tests that will come when you change your style of living, when you change your approach of living? Because the tests will come. You try to change anything and the test will come, right? You say, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and the test will come right away, right? It's just the way it is. They have to. So, but full of faith, unshakable faith. That is where this discernment is strong and the will is strong and we say, I don't care what happens, God or boss, this is it. Nothing else matters. Right? When we say this, I don't care what test you give me, dear Lord, I know it's you giving me the test and I'm going to pass. But then, of course, the old tendencies will arise. Of course, the anger will come. Of course, the feeling of separation will come. Of course, all of these will come. But full of faith, when one is full of faith, the one who is full of faith, who is devoted to it, I don't care, it's fine, I know it's only you. And I know I forget this all the time, but still I know it's only you. Right? Yes. And so I'll forget sometimes, but then I come back to, but I know it's you. And I remind myself, but it's you who's doing this. There's nobody else. That aggravation that I felt yesterday, it wasn't some other person, was it? I know it was you. Right? Really? It's like this. And then sadhana becomes fun, by the way. It does. I mean, the aggravation will still be there and stuff like that. And it's not like it's easy, but full of faith and devoted to it. And who has subdued the senses. So I'm not so interested in this sense stuff anymore. Yeah, you give me a piece of chocolate. Oh my God, I enjoy it because I know it's you. And by the way, I do recognize that the senses and the mind were trained over countless eons to enjoy chocolate. So that's there too. Yeah. And by the way, I know when somebody gives me a bean, I'm speaking here, a bean, not a little lentil, because lentils, those are cool, but a bean, like a black bean or something like that, and the stomach turns and all that. I say, and I know that's you too. So it's fine. I enjoy. The body may not enjoy so much, but I enjoy you. Right? Any work that we do, anything we're asked to do during the day, it's like there will be likes and dislikes. It's not like they all fry right away. It's not like they fry all the way. That's a false expectation. The likes and dislikes, the raga dvesha stuff will remain, but subduing the senses, I don't want to go through this anymore. So then you learn how to not have to go through that torture of being pulled towards this and being averted from that, and I like this and I don't like that. I like you, I don't like you. Oh my God. It's torture, isn't it? That's what it's like to live with ourselves. It's torture. And so subduing the senses, saying, okay, I get it. I live for thee. And I know that it's just you and me, and that actually you and me are one. And if I say that too loud, I might get arrested and thrown in jail. I know that too. So, or put on a cross or something like that. But I know. So that's that full of faith and devoted to it. I will only serve thee. Because I know the way it works here, right? When I try to serve myself, it always ends in pain. So this is a knowledge too. It's a relative knowledge, but still it's a very helpful knowledge. And who has subdued the senses obtains this knowledge. So that's what reveals or unlocks the intuitive knowledge. This approach, this is what's being shared. This approach is what reveals it. Right? Because then the mind, the person becomes unshakable. The stuff doesn't disturb so much, and then finally it doesn't disturb at all when this knowledge, when this wisdom really pervades, when the light really is pervading. Then, I mean, it's not like the I, the great I, is immune. It's immune from personal pain, but it's not immune from the sufferings of the world. That is, it's aware of us children suffering in these nightmares. And that's why it asserts within us to wake us up. So to help us to be free. So it is of the nature of compassion. The I, the great self, God, is of the nature of absolute compassion, but also absolute wisdom, absolute knowing. So if you were to have a conversation with God, let's say you're talking with God, the formless, directly, right here, right now, and you say, I just need $1 million and I'll be happy. Well, what God will say is, no, my child, you just need to wake up and you'll be happy. That'll be the conversation. But then if you say it often enough, then of course you'll have to have the $1 million first and discover that won't do it. Right? So we talk about my will and God's will. Well, God's will is for us to wake up. Wake the heck up, my dear. Know who you are. Know that you're spirit. Know that you're ever free. Know that you and I are one. Wake up. Wake up. And when we get stuck on something, then this self works with the little self. But the knowledge, and having obtained knowledge, ere long, before long, she goes to peace. Before long, the light burns away the dross. And now that's an inner. If we're all caught up, we won't necessarily notice it from the outside of someone, but that's an inner that's being referred to. The ignorant, the 40, the ignorant, the faithless, the doubting self goes to destruction. There is neither this world nor the other, nor happiness for the doubter. Of course, because the doubter is actually a part of the person. This imaginary I, it just is a thought. It's persistent thought. Again, we're in relationship with it. So, and that doubting faculty is actually an aid. But it's necessary for us to, as seekers, it's necessary for us to recognize it, work with it, but not follow it. Right? Recognize it, work with it, and not follow it. Because there's no salvation for it. But there is salvation for you. When it's intractable, there's no salvation for it. When it's unshakable, and it becomes unshakable as we're in relationship with it and we don't do the work to bring it to the light. And bringing it to the light, of course, is a real honest discernment, process of discernment, looking at what we're dealing with and really being willing to go into ourself, this little self, and do the self-examination and see the tendencies that are caustic and causing us to, and do the purification. And the more we do the purification, then the more that doubting faculty comes online, comes on stream. And when there are doubts, we really want to be able to have the tenacity and strength to follow it, but then having proven that the doubt is incorrect, then we have to live in the light. Then we have to see it the rest of the way through and overcome that doubt. Does that make sense? There's so many things in our life where we know one thing and do another. But in this case, that won't do. Right? It won't do. We'll have to know and do the same in order to unlock the wisdom. And that requires great courage. And it requires a constant facing even of death. You know, we hold on to this life, but we're holding on to an imaginary life. An as-if life. And the as-if life is eventually going to have to go. Because it's not real. So it has to die. The imaginary life has to die. It's not a dying of the flesh. Yes. We can call it a dying of the ego, something like that. Sometimes it's called like that. But it's really a dying of an idea. It's like this. I reflect back when I was walking pilgrimage very early on the coast to coast. And this discussion, I mean, I'd had this discussion exactly with Swami Premananda and Swami Ramaswarupananda because I was facing this pilgrimage. And I had the idea that I was going to die. But who had that idea? Right? It's the doubting faculty. Because I also had a very strong notion that the teachings are absolutely true. In fact, I'd seen the proof in it. That I wasn't the body. And so when I would have a conversation with myself, I would see that I know I'm not the body, but there's this very strong faculty within this whole persona that asserts that I am, but it asserts it very noxiously. It just asserts through fear, you know, where you're becoming more and more awake. Right? You're becoming more and more awake, more and more alert about what's going on here in this persona and the way these different factors are asserting. And so at some point you develop enough strength, and we have to, that says, and courage that says, you know, what you're telling me is not true. I love you, dear. But you don't know. And so then the doubt is allayed. And we have choices, right? We have this free will, we have choice. So it's possible, even knowing something through discernment, to still not live in accordance with it, you know. And then that's not real knowledge, and that doesn't unlock the knowledge. And the one who lives in that place lives in a terrible place. And so it's a hell place. Because knowing, having come to know, and then having been given the opportunity to live it, but falling back into the doubt and honoring the doubt and honoring that fear and honoring those judgmental tendencies and all of that, then we actually slip back out. And then we might say, you know, I knew it once later. So The ignorant, the faithless, the doubting self goes to destruction. There is neither this world nor the other, nor happiness for the doubter. So it has to be allayed one way or the other, right? Either the doubting faculty is right. Okay, fine, it's right. At least you can... Yes? I reached the point, I have to know. Huh? What kind of year? I have to know. So in the Katha Upanishad, we're still in Katha Upanishad. Yes, Mataji, you've been leading the last few. Thank you. So in Katha Upanishad, the great question that give me his name. Nachiketa asks Lord Yama is, please tell me, upon death, some say that one is and some say one is not. So what happens upon death? Are you still alive or are you actually dead? So that's the question he asks. And of course the answer will come. And we know the answer, but there's this very powerful aspect of us that doesn't. And as long as we continue to live in that place, then it's a very uncomfortable life. So doubts have to be dealt with, right, in this way. We have to find out what is the truth. What is the truth? And then the doubt becomes no longer a doubt, because then we know and then we integrate the knowledge. So this next shloka speaks to that, and then we'll wrap up for the morning. He who has renounced actions by yoga, whose doubts are rent asunder by knowledge, who is self-possessed, who is in control of oneself, right? Who doesn't any longer, it doesn't say that there aren't temptations and like that, but who doesn't any longer allow living a life that's out of alignment with the truth and with love. Love is the truth. Right? Love is the light, and they're the same. So who is self-possessed? It's a very simple concept in a way, but so profound. Right? Who no longer engages in activities that they know are purposeless. But it has to be controlled, because the tendencies will remain for a long, long time. And it's not dry and dreary, that life, by the way. It really is. It's not like that. So I know this discussion sometimes in spiritual path about controlling oneself or just observing oneself. And actually, observing oneself is fine, but if the little self is involved in actions that are very harmful and caustic to others, at what point will you assert you can't do that anymore? If you're observing yourself, at what point will you assert and take action and bring it under control? So we say actually control is required, and it's a natural occurrence too. If one can actually see the self, the little self, as the observer, then. So in yoga, in all of the yoga traditions, all the steps towards taking control of oneself are here. The little self. And in doing so, we find the joy that's everlasting, instead of the passionate excitement in a moment. Speaking of that, Raja Yoga is of course one of the approaches in order to do exactly this. And it's about unlocking the joy. But it's not easy. It's not easy to... I was with, I was with Swami Ramaswarup and a dear friend who would see him regularly. And she was very naturally hung up on this point. The next chapter is the yoga of renunciation. We're leading into the yoga of renunciation and what is renunciation. And we already have a view of renunciation actually being a renunciation of fruit. Not of action, but of fruit. Of getting something for it. It's a renunciation of that, wanting to have something back for what we do. That's a concept we've been dealing with here. But also there's a renunciation of this raga dvesha. Raga is the passionate energy pulling us towards the enjoyment of something. And dvesha is its pair that's pushing us away from the displeasure of something. And most of our movement in this worldly life is just raga dvesha. It's just a computer program and a robot playing out. Because there's already within this mind stuff a set of stuff that's liked and a set of stuff that's disliked. And then we go through this life and then we try to have the stuff we like and avoid the stuff we don't like. And this was their question. They were talking about renunciation, and she said, can't I just renounce the things I don't like? And he finally said, yes. And he finally said yes, which is, yes, try it. Yes, try it. Because it was a sticking point. It was a sticking point. Do I have to actually eliminate the things I like? No, you don't. But you have to eliminate the expectation of them. You have to eliminate the longing for them. You have to eliminate the planning in order to have them.
Planning is it.
Right. You have to eliminate all of the mental baggage around it. And once you've eliminated all of that, then you can enjoy it. But otherwise you can't enjoy it because it enjoys you. So, okay, so here's where we are. He who has renounced actions by yoga, whose doubts are rent asunder by knowledge, who is self-possessed, actions do not bind him. So we'll pick up there tomorrow morning. Okay, any comment, question?
I was going to say that I've seen sometimes in my mind that same thing you were talking about, the principle of observing versus self-control, where a thought will come that I'll not catch and follow, like, well, you can do whatever you want to, do that thing you want to do, just observe yourself. So it's like a backdoor way for the ego to try and get what it wants.
I think when we I think when we hear the term spiritual bypassing, that's where it's happening.
What it is, yeah. Like if I just watch myself.
Right. And it will assert a diet and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's close with final prayers.
Sakshi. Oh, wait.
It's very tricky. It's built up so many defense mechanisms, subterfuge, and all of this in order to protect the dream. But of course, the dream can never be satisfying because it's a dream. Okay, page 174. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivarnam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivarnam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamamritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivarnam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamamritat Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Shantu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu, Makashitu Kapakave, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Mritangamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all of these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all of these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever in our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. Humble Sakura Shivananda Maharaj ki Jai. And for all of the saints and sages of all traditions.
Jai.
Okay, let's stand for Arati.